Working on your e-mountain bike is super satisfying. It's going to make your bike work better and make your parts last a lot longer too. It's also going to save you a lot of hassle going to and from your local bike shop. But there are a few mistakes that can be made in the workshop, and here's a few of the classics. You're only asking for trouble if you're working on your e-mountain bike with the power switched on. In fact, there's no real added benefit that I can think of, so just make sure it's turned off before you start any work. With the motor off, you can still select gears and brake and use all the functions on your e-bike. It just removes that chance of maybe catching your clothing or your fingers in that front sprocket if the motor engages. And I found that blood isn't much good as a chain lube, and nor is working on your e-bike with no fingers. The spoke key may be small, but the damage it can cause can be absolutely monumental. If you've got no knowledge of how a wheel is built and tensioned, you can actually write off your wheel pretty easily with one of these. Adding too much tension in the wrong place can be a really bad thing, and that wheel will be all over the place. If you are going to use a spoke key to tweak your nipples, you really need to go steady. We're talking half a turn or quarter of a turn at a time. Spin the wheel to see where you are. If you go bunging a load of tension in on one spoke, it's definitely going to be all over the place. Now, if you're not confident by using one of these, take the wheel down to your local bike shop. It's quite a cheap job for them, and certainly cheaper than replacing that whole wheel. One item on your e-bike that weighs quite a lot is going to be your battery. Now, this can make the bike quite heavy to lift into the work stand and to maneuver it, so take it out before you start any work. Removing the battery from your e-bike means that there's no chance of the motor engaging whatsoever. It's also going to mean the bike's going to be a lot lighter, so there's a lot less strain when it comes to picking it up and placing it in the work stand too. And also your frame, your seat post, and however you got it mounted means it's not going to be under a lot of stress because you removed that weight. Also just makes it a little bit easier to maneuver in the work stand too. Contaminating your brakes is a classic workshop mistake. Now, out on the trail, if you go riding, your brakes will be howling, and they also have very little power too. Now, in the workshop, it's usually because you either touch your brake rotors just with the bare skin of your hand. The oils that are in your skin can actually contaminate your brakes, or it could be a bit of overzealous chain lubing and the drift has gone across onto your rotor, and the same with frame polish too. Now, if you do get frame polish on your rotor, it's going to mean it's going to be super slick, and there's no way you're going to be slowing down. As a rule in general, you never want to touch your brake rotors with anything. If you're going to use a spray, just make sure it is a disc brake cleaner. Now, if you're applying lube to your chain, try and use a dropper bottle instead of a spray lube. That way, you're not going to risk any drift of that lube going over your brake disc. And the same goes for frame polish too, particularly on the back end of the bike. If you need to put polish onto it, spray it into a cloth, then apply it to the bike, not spraying it directly, because that is a surefire way to contaminate your brakes. Everyone loves a bargain, and yes, your pound shop pliers might cut your cable once, twice, maybe 3 times, but when you need it most and you need that nice clean cut on the cable, they're probably going to fail. And the same goes for Allen keys. Now, Allen keys are pretty important when it comes to working on your e-bike. If you buy a cheap set, it's probably going to round your bolts off, or even at worst, snap in your hand and cause an injury. Don't skimp when it comes to buying tools. When it comes to working on your bike, good quality tools is just going to make it a lot easier and a lot less frustrating to work on your bike. Tools like this are going to last a lot longer too. The finish and the build quality is a lot better. So look after your tools and they'll look after you. Avoiding some of these mistakes is going to make working on your e-bike a little bit more pleasurable. Now, if you've made a mistake, let us know down in the comments box down below, or if you've got any classic mistakes, get them down there too. Love to hear them. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to us here on EMBN. Check out the shop for quality items just like this t-shirt, and give us a find and a follow on social media too. Cheers for watching.